All right, we're about to pull back the curtain on something that most students only ever see from one side, the exam paper. Today, we're not just going to answer the questions, we're going to decode the entire system to figure out what the examiner is really looking for.
You know that feeling, right? You've spent what feels like an eternity revising, you are sure you know your stuff, and then that paper lands on your desk. It feels like the final boss battle. But what if I told you there's a secret rule book for this game?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving headfirst into the world of exam marking. We're using a real AQA GCSE Chemistry paper, and more importantly, its official blueprint, the mark scheme.
So on the left, you've got the challenge, the question paper itself. And on the right, that's the codebook. That's the key that unlocks every single mark. Honestly, understanding how this thing works is absolutely crucial for getting the best score you can.
Okay, first things first. It's so important to get this. Mark schemes aren't just random answer keys. They are meticulously crafted working documents put together by a whole panel of expert subject teachers. Their entire goal is to make sure every single script is marked with total fairness and consistency.
Now, let's get into the fun stuff. Let's start cracking that code. You see, not all questions are built the same way. They're actually designed to test completely different skills. So let's break down a couple of the main types you're going to run into.
First up, we have the recall question. Just think of this as a direct test of your memory. It's pretty much asking you to open up a specific file in your brain and pull out a fact that you've stored away from the syllabus.
For example, here's question 2.2 from the paper. It shows a diagram of the Haber process and asks something super direct. Which metal is used as a catalyst in this reaction? That's it. It's a 1-mark, straight-to-the-point knowledge check. And the answer is iron. Simple enough. But wait, look a little closer. See that bit in the brackets? It says allow FE. This is our very first peek into the examiner's secret language. It's telling them that if you write the correct chemical symbol, it's just as good as writing the full word. Okay, next up we have the calculation question. Now this is a completely different beast. It's not just about knowing a formula, it's all about applying it correctly to a brand new set of data. This is where you prove you can actually use what you know.
Let's take a look at question 9.2. It's a multi-step calculation, and it's worth a hefty 4 marks. But here's the secret. Getting the final number is really only part of the story.
And this right here is why your teachers are always telling you to show you're working. The mark scheme actually gives you a point for each correct step. You get 1 mark just for calculating the volume change, another for converting the units, a third for using the right formula, and then the final mark for the correct answer. This means, even if you totally mess up the last bit of math, you can still walk away with 3 out of 4 marks just by showing your method.
So we've seen different kinds of questions. Now let's look even deeper into the mark scheme itself to really understand the rules of the game. This is the blueprint for building that perfect answer.
Okay, listen up, because this next part is a direct quote from the instructions given to examiners, and it is pure gold. It says, any wording that is underlined is essential for the marking point to be awarded. What does that mean? It means if you see an underlined word in a mark scheme when you're revising, that is a non-negotiable key word. You have to include it to get the mark.
And here's another bit of insider jargon for you. Dependent marking. In question 1.2, for instance, you get 1 mark for correctly naming the test for chloride ions, but you only get that 2nd mark for describing the result if your first point was correct. See? The marks are linked together. Of course, it's not always just about words. Question 2.4 here asks you to complete a reaction profile diagram. This is a visual test of your understanding of energy changes during a reaction. And here it is, the completed diagram straight from the mark scheme. It might look pretty simple, but every single label is a potential mark. You get 1 for correctly showing the activation energy and another for putting the reactants and products in the right places on the energy axis. 2 simple labels, 2 easy marks. So, understanding the rules is one thing, but what about those simple mistakes that cost students so many valuable marks? Let's talk about how to avoid some of the most common traps.
You know, it's probably one of the most frustrating things that can happen in an exam. You are certain you wrote down the right answer, but you still got 0 marks for it. So why on earth does that happen?
Well, it's because of a really crucial rule called the marking of lists, which you can basically think of as right plus wrong equals wrong. So check out this example. A student correctly identifies the color and pH of an acid and gets the mark. Great, but look at the next one. Another student writes the correct color,
but then adds an incorrect pH. That one mistake, that contradiction, cancels out the correct part, and the result is 0 marks. The lesson here is so simple. If you're not 100% sure about extra info, just don't add it.
Let's do a quick lightning round on a few more of these keywords. Allow simply means an alternative answer is totally fine. Ignore means you've written something irrelevant. It's not going to help you, but it won't hurt you either. But do not accept. That's a serious red flag. It points out a really common mistake, and if you write that down, you will lose the mark.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? By really deconstructing this paper, we've learned to start thinking less like a student and a little more like an examiner. And trust me, that's a skill that is useful far beyond the exam hall.
Because what we've really seen here is that success isn't just about having all the knowledge packed away in your head. It's about how you communicate that knowledge, clearly, precisely, and according to the specific rules of whatever game you're playing. So let's wrap this up with a final strategy checklist. First, know the question type. Second, always show you're working. Third, hunt for and use those precise, underlined keywords. And finally, in lists, don't hedge your bets by adding extra stuff you're not sure about. If you follow these rules, you're not just answering questions, you're playing the game strategically.
And that really brings us to a final, bigger thought. This whole process, understanding the rules of a system, identifying the patterns, and tailoring what you do to meet a specific goal, that is an incredibly powerful tool. So the last question I have for you is this. How can you use this system thinking not just to ace your exams, but to break down and tackle any complex challenge that life throws your way?